Hello and welcome to the Small Business Happy Dance podcast. This is our second episode and I'm so excited because I am interviewing Caroline B from Be Retro. Hello, Caroline.
Hello.
So, Caroline, do you want to give a little introduction to your business?
Yeah, well, we're Be Retro. We make beeswax food wraps. I've got some examples here. So we're very colourful. We make them here in Cornwall. We're in North Cornwall, just outside Rock, and we use Cornish beeswax and resins and oils to make super sticky food wraps, an alternative to cling film. And they come in lots of different sizes and lots of different colours. But I obviously have quite a preference for bees.
So if you are listening to this podcast, I will leave a link in the description where you can go to Caroline's website and to her Instagram, and you'll be able to see examples of what we are talking about. What I can say is they are gorgeous. I love a bit of a bee fabric. I don't know why. I just think they're so cute. And they're all really, really colourful and beautifully presented. And Caroline is sitting in front of, and I'm jealous to say this, a huge stash of fabric, which it looks like a shop. It just looks incredible. So if you are listening on the podcast, you might want to go and have a little check out of Caroline's Instagram, as I say, and her website, and you'll be able to have a little look at these awesome products. So Caroline, you don't just sell beeswax products though, do you?
We're a zero waste business. So when we have scraps of fabric that aren't big enough, so this sort of thing, they're just a bit too small for our food wraps, because I've got very set sizes for the beeswax wraps. Then we use the fabrics and we turn them into all sorts of things. So we've got laptop bags, we've got quilts. Oh, I've got a quilt, I'll show you in a minute. We've got phone cases, glasses cases. Oh, and we make the really tiny bunting.
It's so cute. Caroline is holding up a little purple triangle and a little green pattern triangle for bunting. Oh my goodness.
They'll get turned into bunting later today. So that's the really tiny bits get turned into miniature bunting, and they're multi-sided, and they'll just get put along with a bit of tape and be ready to put on the stall. And then if it's really, really, really small, we use it to package our products that we send out online. So this is our scrap bag, and we keep all of the salvage from the cutting that we do, and we use it like bubble wrap. We put it in and around the products that we send out in the post. And sometimes you get a bonus, you get a nice little bit of pattern. You can make your own miniature bunting, or you could do what you like with it, really. But it saves waste, and it saves having to use single-use plastics, and makes us zero waste.
Oh my goodness. I love it. I mean, I would imagine, as I'm a bit of a sewer. If you haven't listened to the first episode, you might not know that. I'm a beginner sewer. And I would absolutely love it receiving something in the post that had fabric. I would probably be so excited. I would probably sew it all together and make some sort of like little, I don't know, little purse or something. I don't know.
There are some projects online all over YouTube that something scrapping, fabric scrapping they call it, and there's loads of little projects where you just sew them all and can make bags and collages and all sorts of things. But yeah, what we also do with them is we make, I have a lot of fabric cut out that's exactly the same size, so they come out in these little panels, and I just sew them all together, and you get these random quilts with all sorts of patterns, and then I just back it. So we've got these, we call these our scrappy lockdown quilts, because I started making them during the lockdown when there was nothing going on. I just looked at my stash of scrap fabrics and thought, I think I'll make some quilts. And they've gone down really well.
They are
random.
They are beautiful. If you are listening, you need to go and check out your website, because these are really gorgeous and they look so well made. I mean, just I love a quilt. I love a bit of a quilt. So how did you get started with this business then, Caroline?
Well, I was a secondary school art and design teacher. And then I spent 10 years working in special needs education at a special needs school here in Cornwall. And unfortunately I developed ME, and due to that, work became really hard, and I started to become very stressed. And in the end, after struggling with ME and the job for nearly 3 years, I decided it was time to stop and listen to my body. So I stopped, and I decided when I was walking on the beach one day with the dogs picking up plastic nurdles and things like that, that I wanted to do something that was going to help in my own little way to save the planet and give me something practical to do, because my background is art and design and manufacturing furniture. So that's what my degree was. So I thought, well, it'll give me something practical to do, and it'll be something that will help reduce plastic pollution. So there we go. That's how it was born. Plus, obviously, I had an interest in bees, and I went to the local beekeepers and started doing some apprenticing to her. She's teaching me how to keep bees, um, and I've been doing that ever since. So it's bees because I love bees, and my name's Caroline Bee. Plastic free because I'm very environmentally friendly, and practical. So it suits me down to the ground. Oh, and I'm completely obsessed with colour and fabric. So it's just heavenly.
That sewing room does look heavenly. I just keep looking at it like if I was in there, I would be like so overwhelmed by the colours and the fabric. I probably wouldn't be able to decide what to make.
Every day is like a shopping day, it feels like. So when I'm buying stock, I don't feel like I'm buying for the job. I just feel like I'm just buying for me. And I'm hoping to make some clothes out of some of the bee fabrics as well.
That would be lovely. It's really interesting, your story, because what you don't know is that the first episode was with Jo Haig, who's a textile designer, and she had a very similar story to you about walking on the beach and seeing some plastic, and it inspired her business as well. So I wonder if that's like, yeah, it's really interesting. And she's based in Cornwall as well. And that was actually on the Isles of Scilly where she had a moment where she was really inspired. So if you want to hear her story, you need to go and check out our very first episode. But yeah, that's interesting. Maybe it's that connection with nature and having that time. And then you see, you know, whenever you walk on the beach in Cornwall, you see plastic pollution. It is
When you
everywhere.
stop and pause, or you're forced to stop and pause for health reasons, and you stop doing what you were doing, and so I was a teacher for 20 years, and it sometimes feels like you were never looking up and looking at the world. You were so busy doing that you forgot to look around you, and then when you do, it's really profound. And if you're in Cornwall, looking at what's around you in Cornwall, you can't help but be touched by what needs to be done and
Yeah.
keeping the place safe.
Yeah, because I think it's also the contrast between some of the most breathtaking places that you can be having a walk versus this basically crap on
Yeah,
the
look
floor.
down.
The juxtaposition between the two, it makes you want to pick it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can see that. I just love that story. So how long have you been in business then?
We are in our second year, so COVID has kind of not been helpful. It's been a tough thing. We started in the first year. We had a little bit of support from the job centre with their startup program, and literally as we came out of that, COVID hit, and all of our outlets, because we sell 50% to trade, so they closed down, so we couldn't sell to trade because everything was shut, and 50% on markets and at festivals. All my festivals that I'd booked in the February were all cancelled.
No.
Literally, it was just coming in email after email, cancel, 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 cancelled. And I just didn't know what to do. But luckily, Truro Farmers Market took us under their wing. They're an outdoor market in the centre of Truro. And when we got unlocked, I think it was June, wasn't it, last year? Then we started trading from there, and they've been our saving grace. They're an amazing bunch of people, really wonderful to work with and really supportive. And we've been growing and growing with them for the last year.
Oh, and sometimes that's what you need is you know, a little bit of a support network, someone else that believes in you. Yeah, that can make such a difference because you know, when you're in business, a lot of the time you're doing a lot of it on your own, and it can be very lonely. How do you manage that aspect?
Well, really, it's by twice a week going to Truro Farmers Market. I've got a lot of lovely friends there now, and we're always supporting each other, helping each other, and offering advice about where to go, what markets, who to approach. It's wonderful. It's like a little community, and the market's grown and grown this year as well. So we've grown with them.
Oh my goodness, that's nice. Yeah, having a community around you of people who are going through something similar is so important. I said in the first podcast, I did a bit of a course recently, and it was just so nice being around other new businesses, talking about their experience. And even though we're in different sectors, it was just so helpful having that place to have those honest discussions as well, you know, talk about your fears and hopes and some of the stuff that you might not talk with other people about, you know, just really open discussions. And it really inspired me in different ways, you know, other people's stories and how they dealt with things. So yeah, I can imagine that's good. I'm going to have to check out this farmers market.
It is fabulous. And next week is the G7 summit for us, and we're going to have a big market as well. So we're hoping that this summer all the tourists will come and see us and see how we've grown, and all the locals come back out after lockdown and see some of them haven't been out for over a year, and they're coming to the market and they're saying, wow, hasn't this changed? It's grown. And it's lovely to have all their local support.
Brilliant. Now, just going back to our beeswax wrap, I have had an experience of beeswax wrap. It wasn't yours, by the way, just just for the caveat. The
A good
podcast, it was
experience.
not Caroline's. And I have a few questions about it. I love the theory of it, like having something that you can reuse and you know, is very environmentally friendly, really appeals to me. But I have had an experience with beeswax wrap that didn't go very well. Okay, so this is my story. So I put it on some food in the fridge,
Right.
and then I thought, oh God, I'm going to have to wash it. I didn't read the instructions, which was my own fault. And then I did use some warm water. It wasn't hot because I thought, oh, it needs to be cleaned. And then that melted and it all went like basically like went into balls. And it was like a bit of an apocalyptic disaster in terms of I had to put it in the bin and I felt so bad about it. So can you tell me what I did wrong? Because I was worried about, oh God, it's like got it's touched that. And so I've got to clean it because it's going to touch something else. And I'm used to using hot and warm water, you know.
Yeah, I
Talk me
totally
through.
understand your concerns. But what you did wrong was obviously the heat. And you probably used Fairy, or shouldn't, there are other brands available, but dishwashing liquid, did you?
Um, yes, I did.
Okay. Well, we'll start with the heat. So the heat, if you think about beeswax melts at about 80 degrees C. And what we like to use in our hot water is usually about that sort of temperature. Also, if you put beeswax in the sun, you notice it goes all, beeswax will start melting. So you basically melted your wrap, and then you put detergent on it. So once you've loosened up the wax, all the oils and the natural resins that I've put in there are all fluid. And then you've put detergent on it, which is very, very harsh. Most of the dishwashing detergents have got some really harsh chemicals in them. And that basically sucked all of the natural oils and resins that I put into your wrap out.
I just want to point out it wasn't Caroline's wrap. And worst of all, I was
All right.
given them as a birthday present. So I felt really bad about it. I have actually still got, I think, at least one in the pack. So going forwards, Caroline, right?
Going forwards, cold water.
So if I put it on, I don't know, say, can you put it on raw food or would you not put it on raw food?
You can put it on raw food, but not raw meat or raw fish.
Okay,
Beeswax is 100% antibacterial. Nothing will actually grow on the beeswax.
right.
So you basically, in order to keep them working beautifully and safely, you've got to make sure you keep the surface nice and solid. So don't let it wear out but you can make it wear out by putting it in warm water. So every time you rinse it, you'll end up losing a little bit of wax, a little bit of oil, a little bit of resin, and then you end up with a bit of cloth, which isn't hygienic because the mold will just go through the fibers of the product and the bacteria. So you wash your wraps in cold water, you let them air dry. You can use a mild soap or detergent if you feel the need, and then you can top them up and re-wax them every 3 months to keep them in tip-top condition, and then they'll last for years.
Okay, so what happens if I've got I've got something smelly that I want to, I don't know, real stinky cheese, or I can't think of anything else, and will the wrap end up smelling of the cheese?
If it's really stinky, yes, it will, and just save it for stinky cheese. And to keep it as fresh as possible, do as I said with the 3 monthly, top it up, top it up, top it up. So just keep your wraps in tip-top condition. No hot water, no exhaustively, I can't think of the word, nasty chemical deodorants, and keep them topped up. Then they're fine, and it takes minutes to top them up. But yeah, for the stinky cheese, keep one for stinky cheese, or put your cheese in a glass dish and put the cover over it. But for cheese, talking of cheese, they are brilliant for cheese. I've got the cheese lady in our market, Tinko's Cheese. She wraps her giant wheels of cheese up in my food wraps, and she's been using them for over a year now. And they keep the food fresh, they stop it from going moldy, and it doesn't sweat like it does in the plastic. So they are fabulous for keeping cheese fresh. But yes, if you put really stinky cheese in it, they will make your wrap stink.
Okay, noted. Is there anything else? So it's not strong
Not warm,
detergent,
no strong detergent. That's
cool water. Are you allowed to scrub the surface?
You can wipe the surface, but
Okay.
there shouldn't really be a need to scrub. If you've
Okay.
got something wiry and you're scrubbing at it, you're going to damage the fabric fibers and your wax. So although the wax is permeated into the fabric, every time you scratch, you're going to scratch a little bit off.
Okay. So basically, I need to sort of change my mindset if I'm using that and
Yeah, just
really
remember
careful.
beeswax is antibacterial. Nothing will grow on it as long as you don't melt the wax off or scrape the wax off. But there is one thing you can do if you are concerned. What you could do is take your wrap once a month and pop it in the oven at 100 degrees C for 30 seconds. So if you put something in the oven for 30, if you put the food wrap in the oven for 30 seconds on a baking sheet, preferably on a bit of greaseproof as well, so you don't end up with a beeswax baking sheet, just put it in for 30 seconds and then take it out and let it cool down, preferably holding it, otherwise you'll let it cool down and it'll stick to the surfaces. And basically then you've sterilized it.
Okay, I've got a lot to think about. I'm gonna use those other two. I think it's two that are in the pack. I'm gonna be brave and yeah,
Great.
get those out and experiment with them. And I suppose the worst that could happen is we have another situation like we did, but we've learned from that. I mean, immediately as I did it, I thought that was not your smartest move, Rachel. So yeah, that wasn't great.
Well, I had one customer whose husband put them in the dishwasher. I
So,
know.
okay, does that then cover the whole dish inside of the dishwasher with wax?
Yes, but you get a very clean piece of pretty coloured fabric at the end of it.
How do you even get that out?
I think dishwasher detergent run through once would seriously clean it up because that stuff's so strong. But yeah, don't put them in the dishwasher, folks.
Noted. Okay, noted. And you can put them in the fridge, can't you?
You can put them in the fridge and you can put them in the freezer. Putting them in the fridge will help them set solid. So that's really good. If you're wrapping sandwiches the night before and you put them in the fridge, that will make them really nice and cool for the next day. And you've got a really nice solid little package to put into your bag. But yeah, so fridge, freezer, great for bread, anything in the freezer. As long as it's cooked and cold before you wrap it, you can put anything in it. So cooked meat's fine, but they've got
And
to be cold.
where do you, so you can store them in the fridge? I think that's what I meant. You can store them
Oh
when you're
yeah,
not using them. You could store them in the fridge, couldn't you?
you can store them in the fridge. You can store them however you like. Fold them up and put them in a drawer. Yeah, any way you like.
Brilliant. And if you are vegan, do you have an alternative to beeswax?
I do, but I do vegan food wraps, which you can see on my website. I've just got a lovely new range of got certified organic fabrics, which I use especially for my vegan food wraps, and they are beautiful, and I can't wait to get those out. Would you like a peek?
Oh, yes.
We've got this little beauty.
Oh my goodness. So that's like green with, oh wow, green patterns all over it, like flowers,
It's
maybe?
kind of flower. It's just very organic looking, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like nature inspired. So that one is completely organic. It's got certified. All the dyes are got certified, so they don't use any pesticides or anything. Oh, and then one more. Think about to have an avalanche of fabric in the background. So if you crash, be the fabric. This one here, these beautiful. You notice on a lot of these organic got certified
Oh,
fabrics, you get very muted natural tones because you're using natural dyes.
beautiful.
There's no chemicals. So can you see what those are?
Are they zebras?
They are.
Ah, love it.
They're beautiful and they feel so gorgeous as well. And then I think I've got one more.
Cats. Oh, lovely.
That's a little bit brighter, that one as well. So they've got the natural dyes still, but a little bit brighter.
Oh,
Or
that's
have I got one
amazing.
more? Oh yes, there is one more. Uh-oh, avalanche happening in the background.
Oh, wow. That's gorgeous. That's like stars and diamonds and a beautiful repeating swirl, like figure eight pattern.
Yeah, it's gorgeous, nice natural pattern. That's one of my Cloud9 organic cotton fabrics. So these patterns will all be coming into my vegan range very shortly.
So, Caroline, now you're in business, is there, what one piece of advice would you give to somebody who was thinking about going into business? What would you love to have heard when you were setting up or before you set up?
Just to speak to other people, really. I think one of the most helpful things for me was firstly, I went online and found out about different startup help that you can get in Cornwall. And there's such a lot of help available out there. I started with, I went to the Growth Hub, and they pointed me in the right direction for all the different places that could offer me help. So then I went from them to Unlocking Potential, which is a wonderful little Cornish and the Isles of Scilly sort of setup down here. And they have different programs. So this one was Unlocking Potential. And then I moved on. That was just helping you understand how to do accounts and all the things that you need to know before you and while you're setting up a business. And then I moved on to this thing that they call the breakthrough, and they've just helped me so much during lockdown. I think I cried on the phone to my what do you call them? She was my
Mentor?
mentor, that's it. I cried on the phone to my mentor so many times, and she picked up the pieces and said, "Now, come on, we can do this. You can do this. Let's make a plan." And she would help me to look at the next step and think where we could go, because so many times the business nearly didn't make it. And I'm obviously still now. It's very difficult because the way people are buying is very different, and the way people are spending is very different. So it's been a really, really tough year. But without those people that helped me from the start, the breakthrough and the Unlocking Potential, the Growth Hub, that I don't think I would have got through it, because those were the times in lockdown when you couldn't be with your friends on the market. and they were all in the same boat and didn't really want to know about the fact that everybody else was having a horrible time as well. So my mentor, I just phoned her up and cried, and then she put me back together again.
Oh, I think I think that's the Cornwall Growth Hub. Yeah, and I think there are growth hubs, I believe, around the country. There are other versions of that around the country. So, yeah, getting support, getting on some free courses,
Definitely.
and meeting some peers. Yeah, that would mirror my advice as well. And it sounds like having that mentor made such a difference.
Oh, it did. I just would have been a mental wreck if I hadn't had somebody there who knows what they're doing, turning around to me and saying, "Now this is fine. You're doing fine. Just work through it. We can do this." And then being there on the end of the phone, on the email, on the Zoom, just to be there and listen and say, "Yeah, I totally understand, but let's do something about it." Pick you up, move you forward. They were amazing.
Yeah, we all need a little cheerleader in our corner every now and then. And I think, you've got to seek those people out if you're in business, particularly
Yeah.
can be if you're on your own, it can be very, very lonely. And yeah, and made worse, obviously, by the pandemic and all the restrictions that we've had on our lives over the last 18 months, is it now?
Yeah. I suppose when you start a business, you've got to be quite a driven person anyway to want to do that. I mean, you are basically taking on 100 different jobs. And it doesn't matter how good you are, you can't do everything all at the same time. So even if it's just them helping you plan what order to do things in, it's very good to work with them.
Definitely. What piece of advice would you give customers, not necessarily your customers, but any customers buying from a small business? Because I feel like it's different. I've said this in another podcast. I feel like it's different when you buy from a small business versus buying from a big corporation.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you're buying from a small business, you are paying their rent, you're paying their bills, you're putting the clothes on their children's backs. You're not just a profit margin. You're a wonder. So when you see that person on that store like me smiling at you and going, "Oh, thank you so much," it really is meant, and it's so important. We wouldn't be here. Britain is a country of small businesses. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those wonderful customers buying small and buying local.
Definitely. And it keeps all that good feeling going, because you're going to feel more inspired, and then, I mean, you can create new things and
Mhm.
serve your
Yeah,
customer. And
and in a place like Cornwall as well, there are so many self-employed people, because there aren't giant corporations down here. A lot of people are now moving down and working from home on computers, but for those who can't do that, there is very little opportunity to do something satisfying, and working for yourself is so satisfying. And so supporting local business and keeping us in Cornwall rather than all becoming holiday homes is amazing.
definitely has a really big impact when you decide to spend that pound with a small business.
Mm.
We all do a happy dance.
I did the other day. I was in the market and I sold one of these. These are my new I'm doing DIY kits, and I just launched them just last week, and somebody bought 3 of them, and literally when they left I was going, yes, 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 that's amazing, yay, new product, it's worked. So just getting the feedback off the customers is just wonderful.
And is that the beeswax? What is it? A beeswax starter kit?
Yeah, it's got 3 medium-sized pieces of fabric that are all bees in there. I don't know whether the plastic's a bit too shiny for you to see. You've got greaseproof paper, instructions, a brush, and at the bottom there you've got one of my blocks of my signature resin mix, which is my Cornish beeswax, my signature resin, and my oils. So you don't have to faff around with trying to source all these different things and trying to work out what to do with it and how much to put in, what temperature it should be. It's already done for you. All you have to do is just grate it, sprinkle it onto your piece of fabric, which is in the box as well, put it on your piece of greaseproof, which is in the box as well, and put it in the oven, following the instructions carefully so as not to set your house alight.
Is there anything else you would like to share, Caroline?
These lovely little re-waxing kits, which is just a block of my wax, and a lot of people are using those now to top up. So after 3 months, I recommend putting a little bit of this on. You just grate it, sprinkle it, melt it in the oven, and that keeps your wraps going. What I was saying about keeping them fresh, keeping them topped up. And I've been selling this to people that have got all sorts of different wraps from all sorts of different companies, but it just makes the planet that little bit better, because a lot of companies say after a year, throw your wrap away. Yes, it's compostable, wonderful. But why, when you can just add a bit more, keep them nice and topped up, and use them for years and years? So that's what we do with that one. So it's got full instructions, and you get a block of wax with the mixture and the resin in it.
Oh, brilliant.
Nice and fresh.
Yeah, that's such a good. So when I finally start to use my wraps, I will be coming to you to keep them topped up and nice and flexible. And yeah. Brilliant.
We're all online and in the market, and we're on Etsy, and we're on lots of different places online.
I will put all the links in the description if you want to go and buy anything from Caroline's.
Thank you.
Awesome website or Etsy. It's just fantastic. Everything is so colourful, and I don't know, I went on the website and I just had this feel-good feeling about it. I don't know, everything's bright and bees everywhere, and it was very happy. So
that's the impression I wanted to give. So that's brilliant. Cheerful, fun, happy, eco-friendly. Tick.
Big tick. Brilliant. Caroline, it's been so nice talking to you today. Thank you so much for agreeing to be on the podcast.
Okay, it's my pleasure.
It's been so much fun. I feel like I could talk to you for hours.
Come along to the market and chat there.
Good idea. That's Truro Market.
But if anybody does have any questions that aren't on my frequently asked question page on my website, they're more than welcome to email me or phone me up and talk about whatever it is that's product related they like.
Brilliant. Oh, well, it was so nice to speak to you today. Thank you so much, Caroline.
Thank you.
Hello and welcome to the Small Business Happy Dance podcast. And today I'm so excited because I'm talking to one of my other favourite artists on Instagram, Liana Robinson, who is from Lancashire, and she's an artist. Welcome, Liana.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for asking me to come on your podcast.
Do you want to tell me a little bit about your business?
Yes, my business is called Liana Robinson Art. I'm an artist that sells watercolour and acrylic artwork, and I also sell the prints as well through my Etsy shop. Other things that I do commissions for pet portraits too. I do those in watercolour,